welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Jared Brandon Wilhelm Pickups.
Hey, it's me, Todd Novak. We are super happy that you were along for the ride for the Guitar Knobs podcast. We are really excited about this show. We've got a special guest who has been a long time coming, and we've gotten a lot of requests. And this guest is, who are you?
Pete Sully from Strymon.
And this is Ethan Tufts from Strymon, calling you from Westlake Village, California.
Awesome.
Excellent. All the way on the West Coast. So we are hoping that the internet gods are smiling upon us tonight.
That's right.
And we don't have any big issues. So, yes.
Thank you, gods.
Like we just had that nobody heard, which is great.
Just edit that out.
Magic of editing.
Exactly. We got a little bit of news. Just want to talk about a couple things real quick for us. First of all, along the notes of that, what we just mentioned, in the past couple episodes, I think we've had a little bit of signal quality. We have changed our actual call provider, so hopefully that is for the better moving forward.
Yeah.
So we apologize for that, and we appreciate you guys sticking through it.
Thank you.
I also want to give a quick shout out to Leo Olagazi of Guitarras Peligro, which is danger guitars, essentially. And he's been a longtime listener, actually, since the beginning. And he just recently shared an Instagram of him working on an instrument whilst our show was playing in the background. And that was just really cool. We appreciate that. And so he shared that with us. And it gives us, when you're working on something, all of you builders out there, or, hey, whatever you're doing, I guess, if you're working on something and you're focused on that, sometimes you wonder, like, does anybody care? Does anybody listen? Am I doing this for anything? So it's a great affirmation. And I always appreciate when you guys are taking pictures and sharing either the gear that you get from us, or you're playing the show, or just a shout out or whatever. It does wonders for our day, and we appreciate you. Also want to give a shout out to Michael Van Zant he shares all kinds of stuff with me, and today he shared I have a fondness for the Union Jack Sheraton from the Oasis one, because I love Oasis, and get over it.
Who are they?
Yeah, shush. So he shared that, and he shares all kinds of Clash stuff with me, and it's cool. So we have a little bit of back and forth, and I appreciate his virtual friendship online.
David Kaminga. He says that he feels smarter every time he listens to one of our podcasts.
It must be when I'm talking.
Like he says he feels like he knows more about guitars and such. And that's great. That's what we're just trying to
I do too.
Spread a little knowledge from our, that our guest gives us, and to everybody who's listening. So thank you, David.
Yes, indeed. And we get lots of comments like that. We and those that we're going to try to do a little bit more of the shouting out business for all of you who are taking the time to send us notes and stuff, and we really appreciate that. So, to our guests, which we're very excited to have, Strymon Engineering. If you are not familiar with their pedals, boy, oh boy, do you have a lot of catching up to do.
And get out from under the rock.
Yes. Make sure you go investigate that as soon as possible on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever you can. It's all over the place. I mean, these are top tier pedals, and we've heard them mentioned on several of our 4 on the Floor segments. And if you're new to the show and don't know what that is, which we get new people all the time, so welcome. That is where we ask our guests to share 4 of their must-have pedals. So you can check that out on our website under the 4 on the Floor menu item, and also on our Instagram. On the 4 on the Floor, Strymon comes up pretty often, I'm just saying. And for a very good reason. We're going to get into that in great detail very soon. But for now, let's talk about what's going on in our music world. Tony?
Where is he? Oh, yeah, that's right. He's out of the country.
I am sad right now. I'm just a little bit sad. Tony's not here. It is weird not having him with his giant voice blasting my ears.
His laugh.
Yes. With Tony. Jared, go.
Okay, great. The other morning I woke up and looked at my orders and my website, because I do this pickup thing, and I see a canceled order. And And I said,
Wait,
oh, no.
you do this pickup thing.
Yeah, I build pickups for a living.
Pickups. That's right. Okay.
And I look at an order on my website order thing, and it says canceled. So I said, oh, no. So what I do is I reach out to the person that canceled the order, and they didn't even purchase anything. They went on my website. They were going to order something, and then they changed their mind. So I figure out, why you change your mind? So I emailed the fella. Say, hey, what's going on? If you need help ordering, just let me know. So he had a very simple reason. And I said, I can make these however you want. All you got to do is just, tell me. And then if you need some tweaking later on, if you're not happy with them, I'll do that for free for you.
If you need a little persuasion, I can send a couple guys down to make you maybe reconsider.
That's right. No, he said, wow, that's great. So I saved my sale. And another thing is there is a guitar show coming up.
We will have already been there. By the time that people hear this, we will have already been there.
But the fact is, I'm getting ready for that.
Okay.
And I can't wait. I can't wait to go mingle around
with
other dealers. And is this the Strymon pedal right here?
Yes, it's that. We are replicating the El Capistan.
When I go to the guitar show, I just feel at home. I just feel like I'm in my groove. I just love guitar shows.
Yeah.
And everybody else should go too and check out what you could see.
Indeed.
You never know.
Indeed. Let's see. Let's go to Ethan. What's going on in music world, buddy?
Going on in my music world. I'm doing a little bit of recording at home. I've been playing around with moving some pedals around on my board and trying some new things. And I built this looping pedal rig not too long ago. And I just do a lot of live looping stuff at home and trying to record a new album. That's what I've been doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm in the midst of doing that myself, and it is a thrill and a nightmare at the same time, isn't it?
It is. I was looking at my hard drive. I have about 73 like half finished songs that's kind of the worst because which one do I finish?
Right.
Turn them into 36 and a half songs.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And then we're done. Yep.
That's cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's see. Pete, how about you?
Well, I most of my guitar playing, in fact, probably 90 some odd % of it is here at the office, much to the chagrin of the office mates who have to listen to me as I noodle and tweak parameters and things. But typically I play this Agile, that's the name of the brand. It's a Korean brand that is a Les Paul copy, and I put some nice pickups in it, and it's a very nice guitar, but it probably weighs 10 and a half pounds.
Oh boy.
And I'm always like picking the guitar up and putting it down and picking it up. And, I'm basically, typing as I'm kind of, shuffling the guitar around. So just recently I decided to, I've had this guitar for a long time. It's an Alden kind of, which is one of the harmony variants of a guitar, which is kind of like a Dan Electro. It's made out of some unknown, like, plastic compound. It weighs about maybe 4 pounds, and it's got the nice lip. It's a night from 1962, and it's got the the lipstick pickup in it. And my original reason for changing guitars at the office was really to help my back and shoulders from picking this guitar up. But I've really really started to appreciate and dig the sound that comes out of this. It's a single coil pickup, but it's really got a clarity and like a beefiness to it that is very different from a traditional, like, say, Strat style single coil, but it's much clearer than any sort of humbucker would be. So it's kind of a win-win. So it kind of
great.
Yeah, it makes me play a little differently, and I can actually get to the end of the day and not have to go to the chiropractor. So that's pretty much what's going on with me is weight saving.
It kind of sounds like a Echo guitar, the Italian brand Echo.
Oh yeah.
It sounds a little bit like that.
Yeah, it is kind of a well, I guess it's the style. I don't know if Jack White plays them anymore, but up until recently, he was kind of the guy who brought these harmony guitars kind of back into vogue.
Oh yeah,
but,
like the airlines and stuff.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. So it's kind of made of nothing, and it's a bunch of air in between the top and the back. So
we just had Michael from Eastwood Guitars on.
Oh yeah.
And he's obviously the purveyor of those these days.
Sure.
So we talked all about those kind of models and stuff. That was fun stuff. Well, as for me, I'm busy doing a ton of guitar stuff, and I usually talk about guitar, instrument stuff and gear. But I did want to share that. So I went on a little road trip, go visit my folks in Georgia, and went and saw Nick Greer from Greer Amps. So that was a real fun time. But that's on the way. I stopped at I think it was Half Price Books, and I got the Illustrated Directory of Guitars, and it's just kind of one of these. It's got a just a crap ton of good
crud and crap. Sounds
crud
good.
And crap ton. It's got a whole lot of information about guitars. Now I'm trying to figure out when it was printed, because I think it clearly stopped at some point. But it's just like $3, and it's like
Why
big
not?
fat history of guitars, and
You got to get it
it's
for
cool.
$3, man.
And then I also got one of my favorite bands ever in the whole wide world is X from Los Angeles, and John Doe wrote a book with Tom DeSavia and many other people in the scene called Under the Big Black Sun: A Personal History of LA Punk by John Doe. And I saw that and I was like, I don't care how much that is. It was really cheap, but if it was really expensive, I still would have bought it anyways, because he's one of my, I guess you could say, a musical hero. Him and the folks from X. So that's really fun, and it's got all kinds of people in here from that contributed. People like Jane Weedland from Go-Go's, Henry Rollins, Mike Watt, Jack Grisham from TSOL, whole bunch of other people. So, anyways, that has been a kind of a fun read. I'm not a big, massive reader, but I'll dig into this stuff for sure. Anyways,
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the floor.
All right, Pete, give us your 4 on the floor.
My 4, I chose 4 that are kind of have some special meaning to me at different points in my life. Usually, typically these are from when I was just starting to play back a long time ago. Based on these pedals, you'll understand how long ago it was. The first one is a Mutron Phaser 2. It was the first effect that I actually plugged an electric guitar into. I think I was in the 9th grade, and it was 1977, I believe.
Oh.
And yeah, it was not my pedal. It was I was taking lessons from a guy down the street, and he had this Mutron Phaser 2, and it's funny because he wasn't like a I don't know what he played. He played, he was kind of an old dude, and he played things that you'd expect an old guy to play on an electric guitar, but he had this Mutron Phaser, and I plugged it in, and it was just an amazing experience just to hear the alteration of the sound and what this thing could do. And so it's always kind of stayed with me, the sound of it. It's a 6-stage phaser, and it's got a feedback control, which really kind of helps. You can get some kind of intense phasing effects through it, but it's just really got a nice kind of watery sweep to it. And that's, I can still remember to this day. I haven't got one. I haven't picked one up myself, but I'll check out Reverb and eBay on occasion. And at some point, I'll probably find the need to add that to the collection. So that's number 1.
You had Jared just about falling out of his chair, flapping his arms, because he's a huge Mutron fan.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I've got one of those. And
you do? The Phaser 2?
Yeah, I picked it up for a really good price and took it home, and I have it plugged in through a twin reverb that I have. And man, I love that pedal. It just totally changes the sound of your guitar.
It's kind of a simple, it's a simple pedal, but it it's tuned really nice, and it does have a great warm sound to it. And you can kind of dial back the feedback and turn the speed up, and then get this kind of watery sound. You can get a slow sweep and add the feedback and get kind of an intense phasing thing.
Yeah, that's why I like it so much. It's got the slower sweep, and I like the size of it too, because I got
a big guy.
I got a size 14, man. I need
there you go,
7 feet tall.
It's perfect for it then, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. What's number 2?
Number 2, another phaser. So this seems a little weird, like 2 out of 4. That's a high percentage of phasers, but this is the first effect I actually owned. It was given to me by a friend who had started playing electric guitar a couple of years before I did, and he decided that he was going to concentrate on acoustic guitar. So he just one day said, "Hey, I've got this MXR Phase 45 pedal. Do you want it? Because I'm going to start playing acoustic, and I'm going to sell my electric." So I happily took it, and it's very different from the Mutron Phaser 2. It's a 2-stage phaser, so it's very subtle, but it again, it's just a nice gentle sweep to it. It only has one knob, so which is also liberating in some ways too. It's speed. So do you want it slow or do you want it fast? And it's the way the LFO works is you turn the speed up, it reduces the range automatically. In a sense, it's the LFO is getting low passed for technical people out there. So and it's voiced really nicely. So that's a fun one. And that's the first effect I ever owned, and I still have it. It's the block logo Phase 45.
Can you, for the listeners that aren't familiar, could you explain LFO really quick?
Oh yeah, low frequency oscillator. So any of these modulation effects, phaser or flanger are good ones because they typically are dramatically kind of hear how the sound will cyclically kind of go through a rotation, that. So what's controlling that is a low frequency oscillator, LFO. So like on the MXR Phase 45 with one knob that just says speed, you're controlling the rate of that low frequency oscillator. But typically what will happen with those, that type of effect, you will filter the oscillator so that as it goes faster, it actually kind of occupies a lower change in the sweep.
So it doesn't sound like a complete, utter freak out.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of reduces the range automatically. And right. It's something that happens. It's a fairly easy thing to do, but you do have to tune it right. And, they obviously spent, the effort to tune it properly.
Right.
So that's a really fun one knob pedal to have.
I don't think most people actually realize that when you do turn the speed up on those, that actually does change the range in the LFO. And visually, if you're trying to understand what this looks like, so you get the big wave up, you get the big wave down, you get the big wave up, and what happens when you turn the speed up? The peaks of those waves get shorter and shorter, right?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah,
right.
That's
okay.
Exactly what happens.
You know how I learned that? Listening to my own show.
Beauty. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, you're all right, man.
Great. All right. How about number 3?
And number 3 is also an MXR. It's called the Distortion 2. It's a, I don't know if I'd say it's obscure, but it's definitely not as common as the Distortion Plus, which is like the little yellow MXR distortion box.
Mm-hmm.
So the Distortion 2 was also from the probably early 80s here, and it's one of these ones that actually has the AC is like permanently built into the pedal, so you have to plug your pedal like into a wall outlet. There's no DC jack or battery compartment, and that one is has meaning for a couple of reasons, and one is it was designed by Keith Barr, who went on after he started MXR, founded MXR. He went on to found Alesis, which is where I worked when I moved out to California originally, and I worked closely with Keith, and he's a brilliant guy. And one of the features of this MXR Distortion 2 is it doesn't have a bass control; it has a resonance control, and it's kind of like a bass control, but it's actually a resonant filter. So what it does, it really replicates the sound of like the resonance of a speaker cabinet. And for that to be built into a distortion pedal is pretty cool. And it's when you're playing in front of an amp, it's when you turn it up, it's not like you hear like the low end come up, but it's more like if you play, if you're playing palm muted chords or whatever, you'll actually hear kind of like the cabinet bounce at you because it's a resonant filter that's tuned at low frequencies. It might even be like probably not much more than 80 hertz if it's that much, but it's a cool feature, and it's like kind of typical of how Keith approached things. He was always, even if it's just a simple distortion pedal, he's going to kind of bring something new to it. So that's a good one. I still have that. I've had that for decades.
Nice.
And should I go on to the fourth one or any questions?
Yeah,
on
no,
the
that's
Distortion
great.
too? Cool. Yeah, the fourth one is one I picked up in the late 80s called the Ibanez PDM-1. It's the programmable modulation delay. Would it be delay with, PDM? You'd think it'd be PMD. Programmable modulation delay. And it's a digital delay, but it was pretty cool because this was like in I think it was 88. Scott Henderson was playing one. Now he was playing with Chick Corea at the time, touring with Chick Corea, and also had his solo band called Tribal Tech, and really just tremendous musicians. And he played one, and so I kind of got interested in it. And it's a small pedal, but it actually has a little LCD screen, and you can program 20 presets, and then it has a song mode where you can arrange those 20 presets in groups of up to 10 in any order you want. So you kind of like, put your playlist together, and just, every time you step on it, it'll scroll through. But it's just a clean digital delay that is a very wide range of delay range and modulation options and stuff. And that it was really kind of almost like a learning tool for me to, to kind of go through the little menus and hear the effects. So basically you can create with this one delay, you can create nice choruses, and you can create flanges, you can create vibratos, and it's all a matter of like how much you put the dry signal in there. Do you not put the dry signal in there? Do you have a delay range that's a maximum of 50 milliseconds, or is it a delay range of 500 milliseconds? And it kind of like put together all of the time-based effects, and I really solidified how there's really not a difference between a chorus and a delay. It's just that a delay has a lot longer delay line as compared to a chorus. And it's kind of like just a little tutorial right there in a pedal. So I think it's got a little bit of cachet now. I think they're kind of, if you see them on Reverb, they're going for a little bit more. I don't know if they're not going to get a decline value anytime soon, but it's still.
I mean, will anything ever again?
Yeah. No, except for the new Klon.
Yeah, right.
That'll get there. Which is good. I have that too. I like that.
Yeah. I think the guy that started Bitcoin will probably buy them all up or something.
Yeah. He's going to start Klon Coin.
Yeah, right. Hey, there you go. Oh, that's a thing. All right, cool. Those are solid. Ethan, How about you?
All right, so mine maybe be a little bit different perspective here, because I sort of view myself more as a songwriter than a guitar player. I am a guitar player, but I use it more to kind of service what I'm trying to do with writing songs. So the first pedal that I'm going with doesn't actually make any sound. It is the Keith McMillan Soft Step 2. This is a MIDI controller that I use in my rig. I have a live looping rig where I have a pedal board on the floor, and then I have a pedal board like waist level that I've got my laptop, I've got an Ableton Push on it, I've got a bunch of other stuff to do effects and, to do live looping stuff. And the Keith McMillan Soft Step allows me to control looping from my MacBook. So
gotcha.
That is really, really a big part of what I try to do is to create live looping performances where you kind of feel, you don't really pay attention to the looping, you just kind of feel the song. So the Soft Step was a nice small form factor. Didn't have any clicky foot switches, which was nice. So I could fit that on my pedal board and not really take up a whole lot of space to be able to do a whole lot. I have one pedal set up for record, one set up for overdub. I've got a multiply feature, and then I can switch between 5 or 6 loops and start and stop my drum machine all from that one unit, which is pretty neat.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got a friend named Glenn Davis who is in a band called Way Yes, and he does a similar thing. He's got a music stand with most of his pedals actually up on the actual stand at waist height. So he plays guitar and bass, I think, and runs his vocals through some of that stuff too. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, it makes a lot of sense actually. It's for if you're doing that kind of music instead of just having everything on the floor.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff I like to control with my hands. I actually have a timeline delay up that I run my vocals through, and it's nice to be able to change those parameters around in real time. Mm-hmm. And I always joke that if I didn't have this waist level stand, I'd need just really, really tall knobs on all of my pedals.
Right.
So that way I can just turn them, 6-foot knobs somebody needs to invent those. I would probably buy them.
Well, it kind of begs the question. Like, I think one of the first guys to really get down and do all this stuff that at least that I can remember was Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, and he spent half the show crouched on his knees twiddling knobs. So somebody's just gonna end up sitting behind a desk on stage at some point.
Yeah,
with the guitar on their knee.
Well, and it's certainly more visually appealing to do it on the floor and not have but it's just more practical to have it kind of where I don't have to crouch down. Or maybe it's the back thing. I don't want to hurt my back. I'm with Pete.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What else do you got?
All right. So the second one, I'm going to go with the Line 6 DL4. Now, this is a pedal. This is actually one of the first pedals that I got into. I actually worked at Line 6 for almost 10 years, and that was kind of the place that really got me into gear. And I learned a lot from working there, and I really appreciate the work that went into that product. And I used it a lot actually for vocals. I would beatbox through it, and there's some really cool effects you could get using the expression pedal on some of the delays there. Maybe the audio specs don't stand up to the pedals that are out today, but it's still got a really unique sound that I still really enjoy.
That's cool. So what counts?
Yep. And then the third one, I don't know if this is a faux pas to choose a Strymon pedal. Is that wrong? But I do use my Strymon timeline on everything. It's probably, I put delay on everything. So I'm going to go with the Strymon timeline for my third pedal. I run vocals through it. I record through it. I've got it on my live looping rig on the floor. And it's just, I'm biased because I work here, but I love that pedal. I use it on everything. Well, it's definitely one of my pedals that I'll never ever get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said, it's made a lot of four on the floors, so I think we're okay if actual Strymons puts it on there.
So I'll get a pass on that one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. And then the last one, I've only had this pedal for a few months, so I can't really tell you a whole lot about it, other than I think that the people running the company are super creative. They do some really cool stuff. They're great people. That's the Old Blood Noise Haunt. It's that fuzz pedal. And I'm not a fuzz person. But this one's just really fun. Like you can get like really, really messed up sounds all the way to very, very clean and musical. I don't know if clean and fuzz go together, but something that's not as really, really messed up. And it's fun to just run lots of instruments through it, and I also just like the fact that I love all of the the marketing. I mean, I'm a marketing guy, so I love all the marketing that Old Blood Noise does. They made really good videos. I love the coffee and riff stuff that they do, and maybe they still do this. I'm not sure. But cool people, cool pedals, and this one is just a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, that's another one that makes a lot of our four on the floors. We had them on maybe about a year ago, and they just make outstanding stuff, and they do it in a way all of their own. Even as you said, their actual branding materials and stuff. I am a marketer in my day job, because the podcast is not my day job, but great sounding pedals, and I do appreciate the little things that they add to it. That is kind of the thing that makes them a little extra special. Just those little tiny, like, wait a minute, what does this do now?
Yeah, and it's kind of neat too, because I think that they offer, one of the things that I like is a pedal that can get you way beyond what you think a pedal should do, just in terms of like really wacky, weird, kind of messed up sounds that are not musical at all,
right? To
something that is very musical. And so there's a very, very wide range there, which is something I appreciate, because I don't always want something to sound musical.
Yeah.
But they give you the full range.
Indeed. I think that there's a whole faction of pedal makers out there that have maybe given us a new spot on the stage for those who aren't necessarily playing the song. There are a lot of emerging guitar players that are textural almost exclusively, who are just searching out weird sounds to add on top of the song. And we've had a couple of them on recently, Adventure and Deep Space, both creating very soundscapey kind of stuff. And there's definitely a new growing place for that. It's fun to see happen. For sure. Solid.
Nice.
All right. Well, that's a heck of a double 4 on the floor, everybody. I like it. Let's get into the meat of our podcast, the interview in which we are going to talk to Strymon about the amazing pedals they build and how they did them. What we probably aren't going to do is go through and say, tell us about each of your pedals, because there are 115 different ways to actually do that, probably better on the internet right now. We're really more invested in finding out about your story, how and why you matter to us, and unearthing a little bit of the reason that Strymon is important to our music landscape right now. So, with that, Pete, you are co-founder, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And when did this co-founding business start?
2004. Long time ago.
Yeah. Let's see. It's weird. It's in the thousands, but it does seem a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it certainly does, yeah.
Now, are you counting, is 2004 counting the damage pedals or?
Yes, damage control. Yeah,
right.
That's when we started the business back in 2004.
Okay, gotcha. And you were part of that back then?
That's right, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, Ethan, you want to explain a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure. I mean, I came on board with the team about 2010. Maybe it was 2000. Yeah, I think it was 2010. So damage control was what kind of got this all started off. Back in 2004, we had, I don't know if people are really familiar with those pedals, but we had the original Timeline was a green. It was a green delay with had DSP in it, but it also had tubes in it,
right? Along
with our other tube preamp pedals, and those were great. We had a lot of artists in all over the world using them, but they had some issues in terms of like size and power requirements. So they didn't like take the world by storm, but they were great platforms that allowed us to build on that and move on to Strymon products when we rebranded in 2008, I believe it was.
Well, they were certainly different at the time. They still look different. If you see them on Craigslist or Reverb, you're like, whoa, wait, what is that?
Sure.
Even if you're not familiar with it. And we've had a couple, actually recently in a row, we've had several of a 4 on the floor feature the damage control pedals as well.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and part of it was it was a little bit before pedals really started to explode,
right?
And then real estate on boards became more of an issue and power requirements. So I think if we were to make that type of pedal, there would be a lot of differences. But that's kind of some of that is what informed us for things we want to change a little bit when we came out with our first Strymon pedals. But obviously we were doing DSP with damage. Pete, you can talk a little bit more about that, of how the damage control stuff sort of flowed into the Strymon products.
Yeah, we had that original Timeline was really the basis, is really the seed for much of what became the Strymon product line. We started doing some consulting along the way to kind of keep the doors open, but we continue to develop new algorithms and kind of expand on what was introduced in the original damage control line to take advantage of the things we had learned by saying, okay, we got a lightweight size, standard power requirements. So we kind of were getting ready for the this next wave of products. But it really goes back in 2004 when we said, all right, let's make some products. We did the 2 preamps, but while we were doing that, started our platform using these Shark processors, what we're still using today, and continuing to expand on that.
Now, your actual role in the company, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm the algorithm developer and sound designer. So I write the code and tweak the sounds. So if I like to say, if you like the way it sounds, I had a big part of that. And if you don't like the way that sounds, then I'll reduce my role in that. But yeah, so I spend, like I had mentioned earlier when we were talking about guitars, that I spend a lot of my time with the guitar on my lap and the key, hands on the keyboard, and adjusting things, and then auditioning and listening and revisiting and trying new ideas. And using this platform we had developed allows for really kind of quick prototyping in a code sense, where if I have an idea, it's a really easy thing for me to kind of throw down some equations and experiment, and then decide whether I like where it's going or whether to take a different approach. It is a lot of fun to. Sometimes it's, I don't know if frustrating is the right word, but sometimes I feel like it takes a while to kind of get where you want it to be. And there can be times during that period where you get a little, you can just kind of like, you know where you want it to be, but it's not there yet. And it's always rewarding when you get to the point where it's like, this is what I was going for. And
that has got to be a daunting task at this point, considering like, let's just make sure that we can talk frankly about like the importance of Strymon in the guitar world. I mean, your pedals are widely regarded as, I'd say probably at least some of the best pedals in the business, bar none. So when at a certain point, when you're like, cool, okay, so I got to top the El Capistan. Okay.
Right. Yes, that is, it certainly, it does. That's the one thing that does continue to get more difficult in a certain way. I mean, I guess, it's kind of an analogy. Greg will use the expression. He'll say, well, you have your whole life to make your first album and 1 year to make your second album.
Right.
And in a certain way, it's the same kind of thing, but the expectations are high. And so we do have, I wouldn't call it a graveyard of algorithms, because there are things that haven't been given up on, but we set the bar pretty high in terms of what we consider would be an acceptable Strymon product. And there are things that we could definitely, absolutely just kind of mail it in and probably be like, hey, that was pretty good. But it's like, that's not gonna do it. We feel like, people would see that. Like if we haven't really put, our best efforts into it, it's like, I mean, I'm sure everyone, in the business feels the same way about what they're doing. It's like, people know if you can't fool them, and you got to do your best. And that's what we try to do. But it does get to be a little bit daunting on occasion to think, oh, okay, wow, people really, really like that. So, all right, we're going to do some more things that people really, really like. But it's a good challenge to have.
Yeah, I can imagine. I believe that with each new pedal that comes out, especially earlier on with like the Timeline and the Big Sky and the El Capistan and stuff, I think it actually created, or at least widened the door for what was wanted or anticipated from guitar players, as far as how much effect you could put into a pedal. And I think subsequently we saw a lot of builders like really grow in their offering of, well, actually I can make it do this, or I can make it do this, and not feel sort of penned in with what is accepted as a delay or a reverb.
Sure. I mean, yeah, if you think about, we released Timeline, was it 2011 maybe or something? And, if you fast forward 7 years later, I mean, I liken it to the craft beer industry in a certain way, where for a number of years, I've said about both craft beer and pedal makers, how many more can the market sustain? But people still drink beer and people still buy pedals, and there's room for everybody, and I doubt it's even topped out yet.
Definitely not.
It's just an amazing market out there, an environment.
Yeah, I think people also want to see the next thing coming out. Like if they're a Strymon fan or a Mutron fan, or people want to see the next thing. So I think that's, with the pedal builders and pedal makers, I think there's also that pressure as well.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Nothing stands still.
Yeah, exactly.
And from a I guess a consumer standpoint or a collector standpoint, that's the fun. So when people talk about, have we hit a plateau with pedals, it's like, it's one of those weird things where the more you have, I'd say it's actually along the lines of music itself, where the more you actually have that are good and are broadening the spectrum, the more that can hold. So if I know that there are X amount of a specific kind of effect out there, and they keep growing and changing, and maybe I lock onto, and this is where all the branding and getting to know the pedal makers themselves and the brands, and that's what we're trying to do, is give people an emotional hook into a product as well. So when you discover somebody, it's just like discovering a new band. It's like, oh my gosh, I found this new band. Oh my God, nobody knows about them. It's like, I found this new guy who's making this pedal. Nobody's got it. I got to have it. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
exciting.
It's always fun. Yeah, it's definitely a discovery.
Yeah. So how does one stumble into pedal algorithm land?
It's a long story that starts almost as long ago as my when I plugged into a Mutron phaser, but in fact, it actually does start then. When I was in high school, like many teenagers, I was playing guitar and really liked it, but I had to start thinking about, okay, what I'm going to do after high school. So I figured I'd go to college, and I'd already was kind of inclined towards math and science. So like, all right, engineering, that sounds like the right thing. But then I didn't know what kind of engineering. And then I was looking at the courses, the name of the courses for electrical engineering. And I hadn't really thought about it before, as silly as it seems, but I didn't think about who designs stereos and TVs and things. But so I was reading the courses, and it was active filter theory and amplifier design and things like that. And I realized it's like, oh, this is what you do if you actually want to get involved in making this stuff. So I decided I would major in electrical engineering, and so that's what I did. So that was the very start of how I end up getting into algorithm stuff. But it was kind of a bit of a long path to get there. I'll give you the condensed version, but I worked for Analog Devices, kind of coincidentally enough, back in 1985 when I got out of college, and it was a great gig. And it was on the East Coast. I'm originally from the Boston area, and it was very academic environment. I mean, there was great emphasis on continued learning, and it was a very kind of buttoned down environment. And even though I was working with really brilliant people, I felt like a little intimidated, and like I didn't fit in a certain way. Like I felt like I'm faking it here. I'd always had this idea that I'd move to California someday. So after 3 years, I left Analog Devices and I moved to California to go to Musicians Institute for the guitar program. Mm-hmm. So I did that for a year, which was an eye-opening, a really nice time and a great experience, and met some good people, and realized that I was, any hopes I had of like making a living playing guitar were, nicely crushed there, because I realized how difficult it would be to actually become a professional musician that put food on the table that way. And I was not going to be one of them. But since I was already in California, I stuck around and sent out letters to music companies, and ended up getting a job at Alesis Electronics back in 1989. I started working there. I worked there through the whole the quad verb. I don't even know if the quad verb was released when I started working there. So I saw this, huge explosion, and it was great. I was working with the owner Keith Barr and in their custom silicon division, and because of my experience at Analog Devices, and then little by little, I just kind of through osmosis picked up some signal processing stuff here and there, and then I worked there till 2000, and then started working for Line 6, where I was pretty much the primary developer of the DSP platform and code on the Variax guitar.
Oh boy!
So so that was, and that actually got me more, involved in DSP. So really, I guess if you stick around,
just explain DSP really quick? What is that?
Sure. Digital signal processing. So, like at school and my early electronics experience at work were analog electronics, where you're talking about transistors and resistors and capacitors and analog circuits. But digital signal processing is where you're really dealing with discrete numbers, and a lot of it's done with software signal processing chips. After basically having started at Alesis in 1989, you can't help but basically just learn things, and it was through a process of continually learning, and then at some point really applying some critical listening and feeling like I think I've got an ear for this, and I think I can maybe have some success being a guy who gets involved in products, in sound design and stuff. And I got a chance to do some of that at Line 6, so that really kind of set the stage. And then once we started damage control, then that was my job, and I didn't have anyone else to ask questions. So it's like, all right, I guess I'm on my own now. So got to figure it out. And I've had a great time doing it. So I don't know if that was a condensed version or not, but that's it started a long time ago, and still learning.
Well, I want to do that to illustrate that when we're dealing with some of these pedals that are, digitally based or DSP based, they are what they are. They do what they do. These they do so much, and they do it so well that it isn't a giant team of robots, coming up with this stuff. There's somebody behind it, and I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that. Because I think, for whatever, for better or for worse, I think Strymon in the boutique world is, close to that sort of, almost boss element, which is like, who makes these things, right?
Right.
The romance with pedals is, like we just had Clint McDuffie on from Deep Space. He's a guy that lives in Alabama that makes pedals, So right. you can put a face and a name and a voice and everything to the person that actually handcrafted the pedal and put it in your hand, and you just put it on your board. And that is a great emotional connection.
For sure.
With the Strymon pedals, they're so good and they're so amazing that I think people forget, like, hey, there's some people that actually made this stuff.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is too, I've learned that just talking with customers, and when we go to NAMM and people that talk to us, here and there on social media, they think we're way bigger than we actually are, which always surprises us. We're like, you guys are like Boss or like Yamaha size. Like, no, not even close, nowhere near that. And when you're talking about who makes our pedals sound the way they do, it's essentially Pete, and for some of the analog stuff would be Greg. So there's like, we have two people doing that here.
Right.
So yeah, that's always a little surprising, and it's,
that's probably a great compliment. I mean, really, if you're being compared with the likes of that, it's for a reason. It's for quality, and it's for dependability, and it's for amazing sound. I mean, that's it. It's not because you put a cool graphic on your pedal.
That's cool. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's anytime you get the positive feedback, it's always nice to hear that people are appreciating.
So in the world of Strymon, you've pretty much conquered just about every aspect of pedals, at least as we know it. Where can you describe like some of the places you're headed with Strymon right now?
We have that saying, if we told you, we'd have to. But we're like Pete said, there's always lots and lots of things that we're actively working on. and we do get a lot of requests for certain things. Just I think really what it comes down to, there's a lot of things we could possibly do. We just want to make sure that anything that we do put out, we do bring something new to the table, and we really make sure that it's going to be something that will inspire people to be creative, first and foremost, and obviously will sound amazing. So that's the criteria. Can't really give you any hints on what we might be working on, but we have lots of things going on. So I'm sorry for the non-answer. I am the marketing guy.
It is quite all right. I expected that, actually. So.
Yeah. All right.
I did have a specific question that hopefully it's not too nebulous or hard to answer. And if it is, we'll just edit it. One thing that I noticed about the pedals is that they have something, as much as you think you know what it's going to be, and as much as you have heard demos and you've been, we've seen the pedals all over the internet, but when you get one in your hand and you start playing with it, you're like, wait a minute. I thought I knew exactly what this was going to be. And there's this little, I was trying to explain it to Tony because we had a listener who will remain nameless who actually sent me a whole box of these pedals because I'd been talking about it and I hadn't actually played one before. I wanted to, but they're just, haven't gotten there. And so he said, hey, I got a bunch I want to send you. I want you to try out. And which was an incredibly generous gesture. I'll be sending them back, with a nice little gift after the show. But when I brought them in, I started playing with them. I sat back and I said, wow, this has a certain something that I can't actually put my finger on. I don't know how to explain it. But I know the effect that it's supposed to be doing, but I'm getting more out of this specific pedal. I think especially when I was playing the Deco, which was the one that he said, man, you got to play this
right.
because you're going to lose your mind. And I said, yeah, I want to try it. Let me do it. How much of the design that you're working on, and by design, I mean sound design, when you are working on these pedals, your goal is to say you're designing the El Capistan. You know what the main purpose of that pedal is. Can you talk about how you put that extra something in? How intentional is that? How accidental is that?
It is a difficult question because I'll say this at least. I don't basically say, okay, El Cap's finished now, except for that little extra something I got to put in. There is not like an ingredient for any of them. The approach is always we want to capture for something like El Cap. We want to capture the essence of tape machine, but we don't want to just try to make a clone of something. We want to allow for parameters and things that create a wide range of experiences. Or if there's something that we feel like, hey, this is, I'll say in El Cap, a lot of attention was spent on the way that it'll oscillate or saturate when you turn the repeats all the way up. I guess for that is like, I was really concerned that I wanted it to sound nice. And sometimes even analog circuits don't necessarily sound nice, when they're crashing and distorting and things like that. So I wanted to, be able to get something that would be a really nice, fat, harmonically rich, oscillating saturation. So I kind of went to, a fair amount of lengths to work on that, to say, how is this thing flipping and it's overdriving and the feedback's coming in and crashing with the input signal? Like, how are they working with each other and against each other? And some of that stuff goes a little bit towards the I guess the creative or artistic part of the effort, which I really enjoy. That's actually probably the most rewarding, is when you are just kind of trying to create in that sense. But of course, you can't really take too many liberties because you do have a goal in mind that you don't want to stray from. So I think in general, that would apply to any of the pedals, just that kind of philosophy. So maybe if you'd say, the pedals you've played seem to have something extra, my guess or hope might be that what you consider to be the something extra probably isn't like the same thing in all the pedals, but maybe something that you're keying on that was something that we decided worthy of our attention.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's not necessarily that you added the specific effect, or, you know, okay, well, you have to have speed. Well, we need to have that. Well, we have to have rate. Well, we've got that. How those things are interacting is where it sounds like you spent a lot of extra time.
Yes, that's always the case, and that's one of the beauties of using DSP platform is that you have absolutely fine control of the tape, not only the taper of the knob, but if you turn any knob, it doesn't necessarily only have to affect the if you turn a speed knob, like we had said in the analog circuit,
right.
You can affect the amplitude of that LFO as you increase the speed. Well, you could, of course, you do the same thing in a digital, I'll just call them digital circuit, but you can also do a lot of other things. You could actually lower the DC point of that LFO. If it's operating over ranges, again, more technical stuff, but not just whether the LFO gets larger or smaller, but does it shift up or down? And actually, some of that is you can do in analog circuits too as well. But you have the ability to not be tied to any strengths of a fixed analog circuit, and that's very liberating because you can really take care of these things that maybe bothered you. You might say, oh yeah, at the end of the range it gets a little. It's like, all right, well, let me add something so that when you turn this knob, it's actually, in addition to adjusting the speed, it might be just adjusting 10 different things. But all of that, the idea is you don't want to draw someone's attention to that when they're playing with the thing. You just want them to go, wow, this is really nice.
Right.
So that's
what I did.
That's part of it. Awesome. But yeah, there's definitely, that's a big part of it. Absolutely.
I'm awfully glad you took the time to explain that, because I wanted to ask that as soon as I played it. And I said, I don't know if anybody can actually answer that. But you touched on something that I think is at least, it's a topic out there, which is the digital versus analog argument. Obviously, you guys build digitally based pedals. As far as that debate goes, how much of your sound design is consciously trying to counteract that?
Well, there's a fair amount in the sense that, again, let's say go back to El Capistan or Deco, it's a saturation. Those are processes that they get ingrained in musicians' ears as they hear these theme records or experience firsthand.
Right.
And they're all born from their analog processes. So you need to put the effort in to do the right things to capture those. And that's actually the things that are very simple to do in analog to distort a signal are the most difficult things to do correctly in the digital platform. But it's worth that effort because of the other freedoms and flexibilities that you get from it. And then sometimes, depending on the application, like on our Sunset Overdrive and the Riverside preamp pedals.
So good.
Thanks. Yeah, we really, really like those. And when you turn the drive knob up on those, it's a two-part process that's happening. We have a discrete analog JFET front end that's digitally controlled. So as you turn the drive up, you're actually overdriving an analog signal before it's fed into the DSP. So we felt on those products that having a JFET front end really kind of was finishing touch to get the right feel and response.
And for those who aren't familiar, JFET is just it's an analog circuit. Can you just very briefly explain that really quick?
Yes, it's a junction field effect transistor. So it's a component, but it's an analog transistor that commonly used as preamps, like a Echoplex preamp. A JFET circuit has characteristics that make it good for audio front end purposes. So yeah, Greg designed one with digital control to it that allowed us to integrate that analog process.
Right, and some of the greatest drives, in pedal history, feature that actual a JFET style circuit. And actually, that's an SAT question somewhere, I'm sure.
Yes. I also wanted to and Pete can explain this far better than I can, but I also wanted to point out that, sometimes there's just certain times where a digital circuit is going to be, it's going to work out better for what you're trying to do.
Sure.
Like, for instance, a reverb. If you want to have a plate reverb, you got to have a big, huge plate in a room to put it in, and microphones and all that. So a lot of that stuff, it sounds great in analog, but we can we can reproduce many different variations of that in digital. That a big plate reverb is not going to fit on your pedal board.
Right.
And then the other thing I was thinking about is, in terms of, looking at something like an Echoplex as a sound that you might want to try to recreate in the digital world. Every Echoplex sounds a little bit different. So you could like model one and try to get that sound of that one Echoplex. But I think what we try to do is kind of look at the mechanics of the machine as a whole and kind of figure out what are the things that create these sounds and give you the range so you can have the sound of any tape system versus just one specific Echoplex.
Right.
And like I said, Pete can probably explain that better than I can. But those are just a few other things I was thinking about analog versus digital. I think for us, it's more about it's not is one better than the other. It's what's going to allow us to create what we need to create.
Right.
Essentially.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys pulling that apart because the terms being, perfect versus imperfect kind of are the words that fall into that discussion.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how fair that is. Certainly there are some digital pedals that you go like, wow, that sounds just like a robot. No thanks. Obviously, as we just tried to explain, you have taken the steps to ensure that they don't feel like that or sound like that or react like that. And I just wanted to squash a little bit of that very blanketed statement argument.
Yeah, I mean, it's a debate that'll never be settled for some people for sure, and that's fine. There's lots of options out there, but
for sure. Well, guys, I really do appreciate you walking through sort of the background on the Strymon pedals. Obviously, there are many. How many do you have? You got 15, something like that?
I think it's around there.
Yeah, about
that sounds about right.
Yeah, there's a lot of pedals, people out there that you can go check out. You don't have to be convinced to do so. So get your hands on one. Go check them out.
Listen to demos on YouTube.
Yeah,
they're great.
There's some great people doing great demos with great products such as these. Guys, thank you so much. We're gonna jump right into Jared's favorite,
which
aspect.
is Would You Rather?
Okay. What do you got there, Jared?
Okay. Would you rather? Now, picture yourself, you're at your favorite concert and you're backstage.
Uh-huh.
And, the guitar tech says, hey, man, those guys want you out there for the next song. So you get to play on stage with your favorite band.
Right.
However, there's only 2 guitars you get to choose from.
Okay.
Number 1.
We've broached this topic before, but it's always a fun one. So we're just gonna hit this again.
It's great when it's like, you have to pick the worst out of the 2 or the best out of the 2 worst. I don't know.
Yeah, depending on how you approach this.
So the 2 guitars sitting on the guitar rack are a Bo Diddley, which is a rectangular. It's a rectangular guitar. And
is this
just
the red one or the polka dot?
Whatever you want, man. The worse, the better.
Red? Okay.
Yep.
A red rectangle guitar.
Yeah.
So that's what you get to play.
Pete calls it as a red.
Or
Okay.
would you rather
Uh-huh.
choose the reverse V?
This is a Carina.
That's right.
Okay.
And
yeah.
and the reverse V is really weird looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Borderline
You know,
wrong looking. Let's
yeah.
just throw that out there.
it does. It does look wrong. And that's why it's in this segment today.
But some guys going, but that what makes it so right. Yeah, man. Okay.
Can I just jump in because
Yes.
I just hate V's. I don't care if they're reverse or not. I think they're terrible. So people can send me hate mail if they'd like. This is Pete
go
talking
ahead.
about it. This is I'd have to go with the Bo Diddley. I mean that guitar is rad. I love it.
I am a big fan of that too, and it's kind of weird. Whenever you get a signature guitar, it's like you almost can't play it because you're like, oh, you got a Bo Diddley guitar. It's kind of hard to get away from that. It could just be a rad looking guitar if Bo Diddley didn't.
Yeah.
Well, they expect you to play some Bo Diddley.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like if you get the SRV Strat, you get the SRV on the pick guard. It's like you're gonna play that out.
Right, exactly.
But I agree with Ethan. I on this one. I too would. This was before he said that. I'd go for the rectangle. I'm Bo Diddley all the way here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, Ethan, just for the record, I know that Pete called out a red one. Are you going red or white or polka dot or black?
I'm down with the red one. I'm looking at a picture of the red one right now. I'm going to bid on it. It's on Reverb right now.
Yeah, why not? Do it. Jared, how about you?
Yeah.
I'm going to be the weird gay, and I'm going to go with the reverse V because I want everyone to remember my playing and instead of the guitar. So I'm going to challenge myself and try to play really well.
That might
so they're
be
not thinking
actually
about
a great strategy because if you do get up and suck, they're not going to remember that. They're
going to remember the guitar. They remember 60% appearance anyway.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
I'm going with Bo Diddley too, but I'm going to take the polka dot because why not? But yeah, that's a cool guitar. It should get more love than it does for other kinds of music. But whatever. Have it at home. Play it at home. Enjoy your Bo Diddley guitar at home.
I think I'd only want to play one song with it. It looks kind of uncomfortable, but
and then smash it.
I should have said Bo Diddley tenor guitar.
Oh no! Don't
make it
no.
hard. It was supposed to be.
One?
It was supposed to be the word.
really
the better out of the two really bad choices, and you guys are in love with these Bo Diddleys. You ruined it.
Sorry we messed it up.
Yeah. So listen, guys. Look, it's not very hard to find you on the internet, but where can people find you on the internet?
Strymon.net. Also, we have a lot of our demos on YouTube, and we put a lot of stuff on Instagram as well. Strymon Engineering is the handle there, and if you search for the Strymon hashtag, you'll find a lot of our customers and artists that are posting stuff on Instagram. So if you want to check out some other people that are playing some really great stuff with our gear,
and
search for that.
If people want to buy them, do you sell direct or is it dealer based?
We sell direct on our online store, and we'd also have a whole bunch of really great authorized dealers throughout the U.S. And
great, Jared, where can people find you?
Well, if you need some really cool pickups, some old looking ones, or some custom made ones,
Or some brand new looking ones.
that's correct. Or you need one repaired out of your old vintage expensive guitar or whatever. Find me at BrandonWoundPickups.com. And also find me on Facebook and Instagram, Brandon Wound Pickups. Don't forget Tony with Pick Guardian. He's not here to say it, but if you guys need a really cool pick guard or need something pick guardy, then get a hold of Pick Guardian.
He's made almost all my pick guards, and they're awesome.
And he's
I
not
love
too
them.
picky either.
Yeah. So we're gonna.
Yes.
We're gonna. Okay. I don't know why I did that. Gosh, I may edit that. One of the most important things about our podcast as of late has been our Patreon membership, and we have a lot of people that have jumped in and are, helping the show out, and I truly can't express how important that is to our show to keep it going from an emotional standpoint and from a support standpoint.
That's right.
It truly does help. And we have a handful of people that we want to thank who are our executive producers at a $10 level. At which point they're going to get, what do they get, Jared?
They get their name read on the thing.
That's right. And they get a Guitar Knobs t-shirt, Guitar Knobs button, Guitar Knobs barefoot button to step on with your Strymon pedals, and a whole bunch of other little swaggy bits.
Fun stuff.
Yes. And then we're going to do this. So we want to say a big shout out to Tom Barazin, Martin Cliff, David Wolfson, Matt Brammer, Carlos Mancha, Pete Marshall, Robin Smith, John Daly, Oliver Gonzalez, Sean S., Chris Kearney, John Anglin, Robert Marfleet, Darren Gregory, Gary Goodman, and Beckett. Woohoo! Zach J. Wright, Doug Christ, Michael Van Zant, Brad Partridge, Doug Gann, Corey Nigro, and please, Ken, I'm so sorry. We had pronounced your name Key Sayers. I am on my knees begging for forgiveness right now.
Yeah.
Ken Sayers. Let's say it 3 times. Ken
Sayers,
Sayers, Ken Sayers, Ken Sayers.
Sayers.
Please don't appear in my mirror and try to do anything bad.
Yeah.
Spooky. Thank you so much for your support, all of you, and everyone at the other levels. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Strymon, we got Pete, we got Ethan. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day
Pleasure.
and
Thank
hanging
you
out
for
with
having
us.
us.
It's been great talking to you guys,
I'm smarter now.
Same here.
for sure.
Yeah, lots of fun. Thanks.
I know that our audience is going to chew this one up for sure.
Awesome.
So, yeah, really excited. So, guys, well, maybe if you're going to NAMM,
Oh, yeah.
all right, we'll see you there.
Yep.
Definitely.
Everybody else, have a great guitar week and subscribe.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.